On this episode of Spotlight, we're looking to have Tom Walters from the Dairy Agency. A really interesting story, someone who really struggled to get a foothold in an industry that he was desperate to work in, and starting off as an accounts man and actually progressing to be fully listed as a company director on Companies House in 4.5 years. Some really valuable takeaways in this video.
So my name's Tom Walters and I'm the account director at the Dairy. I'm also a director of the business as of start of this year. The Dairy is a full service creative agency, so we offer all the marketing services to our clients as well as the marketing strategy input and everything that comes with it. We're 18 years old, so we've been around for a while. Based in Nottingham, in West Bridgford. And worked with some great brands, and we've got a lovely team in place. We're doing okay considering the year that we've all had. We're still going strong, working with some great brands on some really exciting creative projects. When I started out in marketing, I always said one day I'd love to work for an agency. That was my dream, and maybe set up my own agency if I had the bottle to do it and I was older. But I think to have had the opportunity to become a director at the Dairy has just been perfect, because I've got the grounding there with Nigel, who's my MD. He's able to mentor me and teach me sort of the business side of things, because that's all still relatively new. But then I can continue to develop as an actual account manager and on the client side as well. So it's worked really well, and I do count my lucky stars. I think I'm fortunate to be in the position I'm in, and I really enjoy the role I do. I love it. It gives me a lot of fulfillment. I started out working for an in-house marketing team, and I loved that role because it gave me a really good, broad understanding of everything that you can do within marketing. But yeah, agency side was the dream, and I mean, obviously when I was 21, I had that same pipe dream that everybody has of going to London.
Yeah.
But then you think, hang on a minute, living costs and all the stuff that comes with it.
Yeah.
Can't really afford to do that.
Yeah. It's just fugazi. It's a complete waste of time.
It is, and some people make a success of it, but for me, if I could stay local, East Midlands, work for a really solid business, a solid agency, and just work my way through, that was what I wanted to do.
It sounds like you had a plan. Do you think that you're exceeding what you thought you were going to achieve at this point? And if so, what is it that you think that's allowed you to exceed your own expectations?
I think I've massively exceeded in every way. As I say, at this point in my career, I thought I might be a marketing manager at best, or something like in that kind of mould, or an account manager, and doing the day-to-day. I think it's just that drive. I've always been quite focused, probably more than I've given myself credit for. Especially when I first joined, not only joined the Dairy, when I first got into marketing, because when I was looking for my first marketing role, this was 10 years ago when the last financial crisis hit, and there were just no jobs. I spent a whole year looking for a marketing job. It was incredibly tough. Had to work in retail to get by and do all the stuff you have to do as a postgraduate. But in the back of my mind, I knew where I wanted to be. And I think I just had to keep that in my mind and think, you'll get there if you just stick at it. And even if you're not doing the job you want to do right now, if you can grow in that job you're in, so a retail job, grow your skill set in a different way and adapt, you'll get there. And I think, I'm lucky to have a good support network as well. My family and my friends and everyone have been really supportive. But just having that focus on what's the end goal and how am I going to get there eventually. And even if it's not going to plan right now, doesn't mean it won't at some point. It would have been easy to give up. And I think at one point I did start applying to be a teacher, because that was always my second sort of career choice. And then I luckily something intervened, and I got a job with what was then Experience Nottinghamshire, which is the tourist board in Nottingham, and had a great 2.5, nearly 3 years there, and got all that sort of solid understanding I needed to go on and then do what I do now. Nigel, my boss, is really supportive. He's helped me come on so far in 4.5 years, and I know that he's there to mentor and help me and support me if I need anything. Day to day, generally, I don't need to ask him much, but if I do, he's there. He's obviously looking to sort of wind down in the next 5 to 10 years and retire. So my sort of ambition now is to just soak up as much as I can from him from a business point of view. I do marketing because I love it. Not because I want to be wealthy or famous or whatever. I do this job because it's my passion. And that's what's important to me, really. I think you mentioned about lay your luck a little bit, and I take that back. I definitely agree with that, because Nigel, I knew from when I was a student.
Perfect.
I interned at the dairy.
Yeah, perfect.
2 or 3 times. So, and again, that's what we have a lot of interns at the dairy, and we work with NTU and the Uni of Nottingham quite a lot with the students. And I always say to them, look, it's often about who you know as well. That will play in your favour more than you realise in 2 or 3 years' time. So build those relationships. And like LinkedIn, a lot of students don't realise the value of LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But even when you're a university student, you should be on it, because you can start to just reach out a little bit and get the odd placement here and talk to people over there. And before you know it, in 3 or 4 years, you might be grateful for those contacts. What
do you think the future for digital marketing, social media is going to look like? How important do you think that's going to be for your customer base?
It's going to be massive for any brand, any business now, because the world is naturally, as a result of this year, shifting more towards contactless communication. We're not having many meetings now face to face. We've seen the likes of Zoom come on board with the video conferencing, that kind of stuff. So digital marketing is going to be more important, whether it's through geo-targeted stuff on websites, because more people are browsing online than they are in the shops. Social media advertising, because most people on Facebook or Instagram, things that follow you around. But it can only get bigger, in my opinion. Now, this year has really been the catalyst. I think if we look back in 10 years, this will be the year that will probably then define how digital marketing really grows. It's been growing for the last 10, 15 years, but this is the year that's going to really shape how things go, I think. But digital's the way forward massively.
I think COVID's just made business people think more about people's addiction to the mobile phone.
Yeah. Everybody's now, if they're working from home, working from the office, they're always on a screen. Primarily, unless you're in a job that doesn't need a screen, obviously. But even those jobs, there's more digital coming into things, like the construction industry, civil engineering. Some of the clients we work with, they're using digital technology to innovate their world. So even in those spaces, there's going to be room for digital growth. I think human interaction, we all need it. So I wouldn't want to discourage people from, like we were talking off camera earlier about, with the whole working from home thing, and we enjoy working from home for a short period of time, but the work that we do is creative, and by nature you need to be around people for that, to spark ideas and thoughts. So there's a balance. I think digital marketing is great, and we need to be using it, and there's a real potential there to grow. But at the same time, there's still a need for some face-to-face communication and marketing as well. Because otherwise, as human beings, we're going to cut ourselves off from the world.
Anybody that's thinking about getting into marketing and having a progression in a marketing career, what's the best part of your job?
By far and away, the best part is watching an idea come from being this big, being finished, and seeing it come to fruition, really. Whether it's a campaign or whether it's just a one-off project that you're doing, whether it's a brochure, some social media content, whatever it is that you're starting on for a client or a brand, it's watching that thing grow and flourish. And that's what I get the enjoyment from, because then when you get to the end, nothing's ever finished in marketing, there's always more you can do. It's like websites. A website is never finished, because it always needs love and attention. But it's just looking back then and going, wow, we started from that idea and that's where we ended up. And I think the best example for me for that, and again, this is all, my passion in life, and this is all personal love, but we worked with Notts County Football Club a few years ago and did the family stand work for them. And I managed that project from start to finish. It was my baby, it was my thing. And to come from where we were, and the club had this idea of what they wanted to do, but didn't know how to get there. To then see over the next few months the whole stand transform with these designs that we'd done, and we'd written all the copy for, and we'd come up with this big idea of these comic strips and stuff. And it was just so satisfying. And even if it's not a brand that I'm as passionate about like football, but if it's any brand, it's just seeing that end result. That's where I get my kicks, I think, because you can look back and think, yeah, that's a job well done.
I mean, mine are my godmother, who encouraged me to set up the business and supports me, and Gary Vaynerchuk, from a social media perspective, I feel like he just breathes positive. He's a positive voice in a world of lots of negative. So who's yours? Who's your inspiration? Who's a positive inspiration in your life?
I've not really got, like the big famous inspiration or anything like that. I think family is always an inspiration for me. I've always been backed by my family, and whatever I've done, they've always supported me, they've always been behind me. My parents have always been very supportive, and they've always sort of taken the approach of you can do what you want to do if you have the drive to get there, and they've always done whatever they can to help. So I think family, my partner, and close friends have always been very supportive. I think that's where my main inspiration comes from. I don't really look up to any CEOs of this world or business people. Sports probably where I get my inspiration from if I'm going to pick another avenue. So you look at somebody like back when I was growing up, David Beckham was the big thing. You watch David Beckham on telly, he could do things with football that nobody else could do. He came through the academy at Manchester United and he just became this fantastic footballer over the years, and I watched him from when he first started to when he retired. And I think, watching somebody go on that kind of journey is inspirational. He's not a business person. He might be a little bit now because he's got like me.
Yes,
Miami club,
yeah.
whatever. But watching him go on that journey and how he developed as a footballer and how he improved and the dedication, I think that's the thing I take away from people like Beckham or Ronaldo of this world. They're dedicated to what they do, like they practice and they practice and they practice, and that's the only way they get to the top.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I'll probably take a little bit of inspiration from.
Two things I'll pick up on from what you've just said. I think it's fascinating that you've used David Beckham as an example. It was all of David Beckham, but you described like going through the academy and I think that's quite in line with your own career.
Maybe I didn't think of it in that way, but it's just that I think it's that progression,
that
kind of development journey you go on, and I think whether you're a sports person or you work in a business or you work in another industry or whatever, there's always that journey that you go on, and that's kind of where I think I draw some from.
I think it's as well like the on the interviewees for Spotlight, sport has come up so much, and that you literally said the same thing that every single person has said, which is brilliant. It's the repetition of doing the thing to be the best, and it's that is like ultimately what most people get wrong in their career and in their journey to this perception of what success is. It's actually that repeat.
And ironically, in our world, repetition builds reputation for a brand.
Yeah.
So there's that element to it as well. But repetition and just practicing what you preach.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to be the best at what I do. I would never, it's like we talk about the Beckhams or the Ronaldos or whatever, and they are the best in what they do. But that's in that particular field. But if I can just retire in how many years and say, I'm happy with what I've done.
Yeah.
I've done my bit. I think I've done a great job. That's all I'm bothered about,
How do you handle pressure? That's some good answers on this as well.
Ooh.
What do you do about pressure?
I know how I handle it. Not always, I don't know, it might be the right way. I think when something's adding pressure to me, first of all, I internalise it, which isn't great, and I know I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I'll sit on it and I'll stew on it for a bit. I'll probably go a bit quiet because I'm thinking about it, and people around me probably know I'm doing that as well. But then, after a while of stewing on it and probably letting it bubble under the surface, I'll talk to somebody about it, and then I start to talk through the solution. And I think that's how I end up getting to the crux of something or overcoming something if there's pressure on me, is talking it through. And I think that's important for everybody. You should always, if you've got a problem or anything, you should always talk about it with somebody because it does help. But yeah, I have this really weird process of I do stew on it for a bit, and I probably work myself up inside. And Claudia that I work with, she always says I come across quite calm at work, whereas inside I don't feel like I am.
Yeah.
Because you think, God, my heart's gone up and down. Oh, there's so much going on, and inside you feel like a bag of nerves, or you just feel like you're all over the place. But yeah, I probably do. Just think about it for a bit, internalise it. Maybe it's not good sometimes because you work yourself up, and then just talk it through. And that's when things start to get better, when you've talked.
When you're online and you're looking at like information about how to be a success, all you get hit with is people that like are telling you about like super hyper growth and this. And I had a helicopter at 14 because I did this one trick that Facebook didn't want to tell anybody, which we all know is a load of bollocks. Yeah. Like we all have ridiculous setbacks. Tell us about a setback and tell us about like how you overcome it. What did you learn from it?
It's probably well, it is a setback. It's probably when I graduated. It's going back to that sort of getting a foothold in the industry and trying to get a first marketing job. Left university, knew what I wanted to go into, had a clear path in my head of, I want to work in marketing, I want to try and get into the nitty gritty of it and get involved. But I had so many knockbacks on interviews in that first year. I went for probably 4 or 5 interviews for good jobs, didn't get them for one reason or another, just didn't happen. And that was tough. Like you said earlier, mentally it can affect you, and I think it probably did a little bit without me knowing it. That's the hardest period I've had. That's the biggest setback I've had, is those knockbacks, because you then start to doubt yourself and you think, am I actually cut out for this? Is this what I should be going into? Should I be a teacher?
Yeah.
Should I just go and fill the forms in? Because you just think it's not meant to be. And trying to find the strength and the resolve to keep going through that is quite hard. And I do feel for people that are graduating now, because it's going to be even harder.
Yeah.
It's not an easy world to go into right now.
Yeah.
The jobs are limited, the competition's higher than it's ever been. So, I do feel, and wherever I can, I try and offer advice to people if I can about how they can try and differentiate themselves or whatever, but it is tough. It's really tough.
So management style, something I struggle with. Have you done courses? Have you learned? Or have you just naturally developed into being a manager, into a management style?
I think it's that natural development. I've not done any courses on it. I think it's one of them things you kind of figure out for yourself, because like you say, it's the person. And yeah, the person you are in your private life might not be the same person you are at work to a certain extent, because you've got to do certain things in your working life that you wouldn't do in your personal life. But I think for me, my style is very much just trust people and give people responsibility, and treat people how you want to be treated. And that's such a cliche, because everybody always says that, but I think it's really true. I would like to be treated with respect and, work in an environment that's happy and I feel fulfilled. So I'd like people that I manage to feel like that as well. I don't believe in, I'm not a shouter, I'm quite a reserved kind of guy. If someone does something wrong, I don't then put them in a room and tell them off for 10 minutes until I'm red in the face. That's not my style. I'll talk them through with a mistake they've made, say how they could maybe improve on it, show them what they can do, and just sort of go from there. I think you should treat people with respect first and foremost, because that's how people want to. That's when people want to work for you or with you. And also, I don't think of myself as a manager in my job. I think of myself as just an employee. People work with me, not for me, and I think that's the important thing. And day to day, I don't really even think about my management style or how I treat people. I just do it.
You talked about this fateful day in March. The business lost its largest client, which was a big chunk of your revenue. What have you done? You've obviously had to do something to fix that during COVID-19. So how did you pivot? What did you learn, and what did you do at that point to recover?
Well, when you first get the news that you're losing, potentially your biggest client, it's a bit of a shock to the system, and you kind of have to, as a team, come together and think, right, what is this plan we're going to put together to get us through this? And with COVID being there as well, it was a double whammy, because you think, well, hang on a minute, this is the worst time, because then winning new work and all that is going to be harder. And I think the best thing we did was we didn't shy away from the truth. So some people are quite happy to bury their heads in the sand and think, it'll be fine, it'll just work out, it'll be fine. But we faced up to the fact that, right, this is the hole we're going to have to plug. This is what it's going to be. This is the reality of the situation. What do we need to do to get ourselves back to where we were, or at least somewhere near where we were? And then literally put a plan together of, right, we need to win new clients. They need to be of this particular size, this particular type of client. We want to work with good people who want to do good marketing. We don't want to work with people who don't value it. I think stay true to what we always do as well. We're an open and honest agency that does honest, creative work, and we pride ourselves on being good people, nice people to work with. Let's not change that. Let's not change that approach. Let's not be hard salespeople and go out and just knock on people's doors and bash them down. That's not us. Stay true to what we're about as a business, because the dairy has to be what the dairy is. Just have a plan of, right, we're going to win this. We need to win this many clients. We need to get this much back in, and just work as hard as we can to get there. And as I say, don't shy away from the harsh reality of the numbers, the figures, because we've got a plan at the office for this year, for COVID, of our finances. We've got, obviously every year we have a financial plan, but we've actually done a lockdown COVID finance chart. And that just tells us from the moment we went into lockdown to the end of 2020, what figure are we going to be at for the year in that period? Because that's the kick in the teeth we've had. How can we mitigate that?
Yeah.
And obviously losing our biggest client was one big bombshell within that plan. And we've had to try and get back out of it, out of that hole. And we're getting there. We are getting there. And, we've had some great client wins recently, some lovely businesses. We've got a few more that we're working with at the moment, or talking to. And we're positive about the future. The dairy will not be going anywhere. We'll be here next year. But if we hadn't have faced up to reality, that might not be the case.
What's next?
On a personal level, continuing to learn, continuing to grow. As I said earlier, learning from Nigel every day about, the actual business side of things, running an agency, what it takes to do the day-to-day stuff away from the clients. In terms of the client side, continuing to work with great businesses and brands, delivering what they need, offering creative solutions. And our motto for 2020 has been more creativity and no complacency. And I think we've been true to that. And I think we need to continue with that for next year as well. Let's not get complacent, because it's the worst time ever to be complacent. Let's remain creative, because that sets us apart. If we can showcase what we can do for brands, it might win other brands over, and we might win new clients. So stay true to that. As I say, I think the dairy is, as a business, we're fine. We'll be here next year. We'll continue to do what we do. And just hopefully try and get back on that upward curve we were on going into this year. Because last year we had our best year in over a decade, financially and in terms of clients. It was a brilliant year. Obviously this year has knocked all that out of the water, and we've got to sort of build up again a little bit. But we're confident we can do that with the team we've got, with the clients we've got, with the skills we've got. And going back to what we talked about off camera about personal life, for me as well, it's focusing on my future on a personal level. We've had a bit of a busy year we were meant to get married this year, we were meant to buy a house.
Tell me about it, yeah.
That's all been affected by COVID, so it's just making sure that I don't take away my focus from my personal life as well.
Fantastic chatting through with Tom today. Some great takeaways for everybody. You really can shape your own future. You've just got to want it, and you've got to put in the repeatability, for want of a better description, of what is turning out to be the route to success for a lot of the Spotlight guests, and that is just personified by Tom's story today.